Hi everyone. Well, it's springtime. This is the time of year us gardeners live for. And today I've got vegetables, fruits, and herbs that you must plant in April. No matter where you live, whether you're in the north and you're still under snow, or whether you're in some of the middle areas, your frost date is near or has passed already, or even here in the beautiful sunny south where we have no danger of frost and we can plant just about anything. So stick with me. There's a vegetable, fruit, or herb here for you to plant right now. Now this video is going to be separated into areas. So if you're in the north, mid area, or south, you'll know exactly what to plant for your area. So the first one we're going to start with is the north. Now these are gardeners in the northern US where you're still under snow and cold, and you might be a while still till you have your last frost date. If you live in this area, you definitely want to focus on some of the cool weather vegetables. As soon as you can work the soil, you're going to want to plant, first off, your peas. So come on over here. We're actually towards the end of our cool weather crops here in Southern California, so my peas are actually starting to die off because of the heat. But you cool weather gardeners, as soon as you can kind of work the soil, as soon as it thaws and loosens up, you can pop in your pea seeds. Now you want to do this early in the spring, because once peas get over 75 or 80, they're going to start to die off like mine are here. So pop in your seeds first thing in the spring so you can get a harvest before it gets too hot for them. Next, you want to focus on your greens. Now, specialty greens are super expensive at restaurants and at organic grocery stores, but you can plant your own for absolutely pennies. Now, my Tastoi, again, is getting beat up from the heat we've had here, but it's a gorgeous kind of spoon mustard. And these are in my specialty greens collection. You also want to plant red mustard greens, which are very easy to grow from seed. You can direct seed them right in your garden beds, again, as soon as you can work the soil. And of course, you can't go wrong with tons and tons of delicious lettuce. This is my price head lettuce here. Now don't stop at just one variety of lettuce. Plant the rainbow of colors in your spring garden. Over here I've got several different kinds. The royal oak leaf lettuce is a really nice hardy green, holds up really well to dressings, and actually lasts a pretty long time in the fridge. And there's some other different varieties of lettuce here. I think this one is called Marvel of Four Seasons. It's kind of a little heading lettuce. So plant your loose leaves, plant your heading lettuces. And over here there's a couple other varieties. Your romaines actually hold up a little bit better when the temperatures get 75 to 80. So I always plant a nice variety of romaine lettuces. They're a little bit more heat tolerant. Besides your peas and your greens in the north, you want to be focusing also on the root vegetables. Again, as soon as that soil thaws, get your root vegetable seeds planted. And a couple of my go-tos are beets and carrots. So again, you want to make sure that you get them planted as soon as you can work the soil, because they do take a little bit of time, maybe 60 even to 90 days to be ready to harvest. And you want to have them ready to harvest before the weather gets too hot. So really important that you start seeds for these this month. And for more information on how to start beets and carrots, watch our What to Plant in March video, or I think February video actually, where I show you exactly how to do that. But here you can see the carrots I planted back in February or in March are just starting to come up. Now I don't know if I'll be able to get a harvest from those because we have been getting some days in the 80s and even up to 90. But over here I have some carrots that I actually planted back in the fall, and I've been harvesting them as I need them for salads. And they keep really well in containers. They actually grow very nicely in containers. I've got this one here in a 5-gallon smart pot because the soil is nice and loose, and that way the roots don't get obstructed by rocks or heavy clay soil. I mean, look at that carrot. It's just beautiful. It's nice and straight and long, and these are the gorgeous rainbow carrots from my rainbow seed collection. So we will definitely be eating this on a salad for lunch. Oh, and by the way, their carrot greens are also edible. So for your northern gardeners, your early spring garden would also be the same as what you would plant in the fall when the temperatures cool off after the summertime. So another thing you definitely want to get started indoors are your brassicas. Your broccoli, your cauliflower, and your cabbage. Those do take a little bit more time to harvest. So hopefully you've already got them started, but if not, definitely start them now. You can grow them from seed indoors for about a month or so and then plant them outside after your last frost date. So here we've got a beautiful broccoli plant. We've been harvesting off this. Again, coming to the end of its life here in Southern California. We've got a few more tiny harvests left, but the good thing about the brassicas is that they can take frost. In fact, any of these vegetables I've talked to you about today can take light frosts. So if you get them planted outside and you get an unexpected frost, just keep an eye on the weather, and you can even provide them with some little cover like a frost blanket or a storage bin placed over your young seedlings. That way it protects them on those cold nights. Other vegetables that you northern gardeners definitely want to get started indoors right now, if you haven't yet, are your tomatoes, peppers, and eggplant. Those take a little bit of time to grow indoors, about 8 weeks. So you can maybe grow some smaller varieties that you can get planted out after your last frost date, and that way you can still get harvest this summer. Now let's talk about the mid-zone gardeners in the middle of the US here, back to our old school atlas. Maybe your frost date has just passed, or maybe it's getting ready to pass soon. So you have a few more options available to you. You definitely want to be starting your cucurbits indoors. So I'm talking your cucumbers, squash, and watermelon. Hopefully you didn't start them too early, because when you do that, they outgrow their seed starting containers before it's warm enough to get them planted outside. So you might be still having some chilly nights in the 30s and even in the 40s. So wait until your temperatures, your nighttime temperatures, are in the 50s and 60s before you get them planted out. But hopefully you've got some going from seed indoors. I've got some beautiful cucumbers and watermelon right here, and then put them out in the garden when the soil temperature warms up to the mid 60s or 70s. Now, the great thing about you mid-zone gardeners is you can also be planting a lot of your cool weather herbs from seed right now, right in your garden beds or in your containers. I've got a gorgeous container here of parsley that's starting to bolt again because of our hot temperatures, but you can pretty much plant any of the herbs in containers. I also have some oregano, some rosemary behind here. These are all perennial herbs, which it's a great month now in the early spring to get them planted. You'll also want to direct seed like your dill, your cilantro. In fact, Jerry, let's go on up the hill and we'll show our mid-zone gardeners our herb garden where we have some gorgeous cool weather herbs growing. Come on, you guys. You can find seeds for many of these vegetables and herbs in our seed collections over at CallieKimGardenandHome.com. We actually decided to run our 40% off sale with the code SPRINGFLING until the end of March because so many people were appreciating the discount. So here we have in here some gorgeous cool weather herbs. So you mid-zone gardeners, now is a perfect time to direct seed them. We've got some cilantro coming up here. And cilantro does take a little bit of time to germinate, so get them planted early in the spring, again, so you can get harvest before things get too warm and they start to bolt. So cilantro is just a beautiful herb to grow, delicious in your salsas. And over here, we've got parsley again, also grows beautiful in raised beds and in containers. It's always fun to grow small little containers of herbs that you can put right outside on your deck or patio, and then just step right outside your back door and you've got beautiful garden fresh herbs. Now, one of my favorite cool weather herbs are chives. This is probably the herb that I eat the most, and chives are perennial, so mine are just starting to come back. I actually kind of wondered if they were gonna come back this year because they literally looked almost dead about a month ago. But here they are, just growing like crazy. You can definitely sprinkle seeds very easily in your containers or in your raised beds, and they make a very, very nice edging plant. And then when it does get too hot and they start to bloom, the flowers are edible and they attract the bees, so you really can't go wrong with chives. Some of you have asked, why do you have a rope hanging on your fence? Well, that rope actually serves as an important reminder to us of where we've come from. I used that rope when we first moved into this house. It was a weed-filled hill, and I used that rope to lower myself down the hill so I could get to my little garden that I dug out in the corner. And then we took pictures of that and used it on an audition when we auditioned for the TV show Makeover that allowed us to install and put in our garden as it is today. Next crop for your mid-zone gardeners are citrus and fruit trees. Early spring is a great time to get them planted out after your last frost date. And make sure that you check with your local independent garden center for varieties that are more cold hardy and do well in your area. Now, you might have seen our lemon harvest video a couple of weeks ago, and these lemons are just bursting to life with the warm weather we've had. We've got tons of blooms on them. We've got them growing in a container. So if you live in a very cold area, you may want to consider some dwarf or smaller varieties of citrus trees and grow them in something like I have here, a 30-gallon Smart Pot. And then you can even put them on wheels and even move them inside in the wintertime if you're getting very cold. Now, come on down the hill here with me and I'll show you where I have my fig tree planted. That's another great crop to plant now in early spring. Come on down. So here's my fig tree, and it's just breaking dormancy for spring. There's little leaves and branches starting to come out. Now I'm growing this with the espalier method, and you can go back and watch the video we did on this last spring. So basically what I'm doing is it allows me to grow a large tree like a fig tree in a small space here against my fence. So we've got some branches coming out laterally here. You can see the amazing sight is the buds are just starting to bust out from the end of the branches. Figs are a great fruit tree to plant in early spring, even if you live in a cold area. And again, ask at your local garden center and see what varieties do best in your area. But you can also plant your trees like your apples, your peaches, your plums. All those trees are great to plant. You can save money by planting them from bare root varieties. That way you get them in the ground in early spring and take full advantage of the springtime weather. Now, especially for you mid-zone gardeners, do keep in mind that the spring weather is very unpredictable. I mean, perfect example here. We had a 90-degree day on Monday, and today it's in the 60s and drizzly. So make sure that you have your frost protection covers handy, your storage bins to place over your seedlings, or your frost blankets, or your old quilts that you can just drape over your plants if you get an unexpected frost. Now, one more crop for you mid-zone gardeners is nasturtiums. It's a flower, but every single part of the plant is edible. These nasturtiums, it's a perfect spot for them right here. We get lots of sun, are almost dinner plate sized leaves. So these are edible and are delicious in salads. The flowers are also edible, but they are very heat sensitive. So they only last in the early spring. 75, 80 degrees, they start to die off. You can direct seed them right in your garden beds. They're so easy to grow. You don't even have to start them from seed indoors. Then you have these gorgeous flowers. It's a beautiful crop to eat, and it attracts the pollinators like crazy. So get them planted early in the spring. Little caveat on them though, they're also not frost tolerant. So if you get a frost, they're gonna die off, so do wait until the danger of frost is gone before you plant them out in your garden beds. Now, besides the crops I just mentioned for you mid-zone gardeners, you also wanna be keeping on going with your tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants indoors, and then get them planted outside, but wait until after your last frost date. Even a few weeks after your last frost date is even better, because the soil temperature will be warmer. The plants are warm with their vegetables, they'll take off quicker, and you'll get harvest that much sooner. So let's move on now to southern gardeners in frost-free zones where it's already getting sunny and warm like it is here in Southern California. So we're talking the southern states. California, Texas, Arizona, all down in here in the southern US. The sky's the limit with you right now. You have wide open to plant anything. I would stay away from some of the cool weather crops unless you're just now getting them in the garden and you probably get a harvest before it gets too hot, but really focus on those warm weather vegetables. Your tomatoes, peppers, and eggplant are perfect right now as long as your nights are in the 50s and 60s to get them planted outside in your garden beds, in your containers, and in your in-ground gardens. I've got my very first tomato of the season planted right here. It is one of the Sun Gold tomatoes, and I'm really looking forward to it climbing up and over this trellis. So we have a beautiful tower of tomatoes here down in our Smart Pots garden. Now, what you also want to plant though this month are vegetables and fruits that you can direct seed right in your garden bed. I also just direct seeded some sugar baby watermelon in here. So you can direct seed these, or if you already have transplants from seeds that you started indoors, now is a great time to plant them outside. But again, make sure that soil temperature is warm, and then keep your covers handy just in case you get a few cold nights. You probably won't get frost, but for tender young transplants, you will want to cover them if it dips down into the 30s or even in the 40s. Three other vegetables you southern gardeners definitely want to direct seed in your garden right now are what I like to call the power producers: beans, cucumbers, and squash. They really do well when you plant them when the soil is nice and warm. They're going to grow fast and really take off quickly. And a good seed collection to start with, if you don't have any seeds, is the Spring Garden Seed Collection, because it has 14 different varieties, a good mixture of warm weather and cool weather vegetables, including these power producers. Now, it's one of my favorites, the round zucchini, and I always like to kind of plant them on the edge of a raised bed. Really easy when you just direct seed them. So you're just going to pop the seed in, press it down about a half an inch or so. And if your temperatures are in the 60s, 70s, 80s, or even into the 90s, these seeds will germinate so fast within a couple of days, and you'll be harvesting them nice and early in the summer, probably in about 60 days or so. Another power producer for you southern gardeners to get planted outside now are cucumbers. Now you can start them from seed indoors. These were started a couple of weeks ago, so they're not quite big enough to plant outside. But you also want to be direct seeding them, because that way you have cucumbers to harvest at different times. And what I found is for those early spring cucumbers is a lot of times the ones that you direct seed catch up very quickly to the ones that you start from seed indoors. So I always like to plant both. So these are the Boston pickling from my spring garden seed collection. The seeds are so easy to plant, you guys. If you've got about 5 minutes, just pop out in your garden and make sure that you plant them next to a trellis, because they do like to climb. And that way, when they pop up, they've got something to climb on, and you can grow them vertically, which will really save you a lot of space and keep them off the ground and away from the pests and away from the critters, and keep them more healthy and disease-free. So here I'm just popping them in my little shorty Smart Pot raised bed. Super easy to plant. It's going to rain today, so I'm not even going to water them. And this trellis here is a very simple trellis to install. It's called ladder mesh. You actually get it at your local hardware store. It's usually in the masonry department, and it's about 3 or 4 feet long. Actually, I think it's about 7 foot long. I put 2 together, tied in the middle with cable ties, and then arch them over this raised bed. So it's a really easy, simple DIY trellis that only costs about $10. You really can't go wrong with that. The next power producer for you southern gardeners are beans. And here I have a perfect example. These beans are actually called yard-long beans. I got the seeds from Gary at the Rustic Garden. This actually grew all winter here in Southern California, even though we had a light frost. So these are what's called pole beans. So it's good to plant on a really long trellis. It's coming from way over here and then winds all the way up. It just attached itself to my tomato string trellis. Don't have any beans yet, but I'm imagining as soon as it gets warm, these will flower and produce beans. It goes all the way up and over my trellis. So you can tell why beans are called a power producer, because they're such prolific plants. They grow quickly, and you can really get a lot of food from them. Now come on up the hill here. I want to show you where some other beans are already growing. We had a couple of warm weeks about a month or so ago, and I put in some scarlet runner beans, which are also super prolific. Now these actually dried up and died from last year, and I just took the dry pods and just kind of sprinkled the beans down here at the base of this trellis. They popped up a couple of weeks ago. We'll start climbing, and soon I'll have some beautiful scarlet runner beans here again. The flowers are gorgeous and red, and the hummingbirds absolutely love them. Now right over here, let me show you the scarlet runner bean seeds. These actually dropped on the ground during one of our windstorms. This is what they look like. And over here at the base of the trellis, just by accident, they're actually starting to sprout and grow through the soil. So when the temperatures are warm, the beans absolutely love to grow. Now I've got the Jackson Wonder bush beans. You don't have to grow polar runner beans if you don't have the space. Grow small bush beans in a container or in a raised bed, and they're so easy to plant. Grow these with your kids, because your kids will love seeing them sprout so quickly. Give them their own container. They'll grow great in the Calicum 5-gallon smart pots. We'll just plant a couple in right here. So we've got some bush beans and some pole beans. And all you have to do is just push them in the soil, about a 1/4 inch or so, cover them up, and in warm temperatures, they literally will sprout. Let's move this weed out of the way. They'll literally sprout in just a couple of days, and you'll have beans in about 6 weeks. You really can't go wrong with beans. For your southern gardeners, now's the time to start your warm weather herbs. Your basil and all your perennial herbs like your rosemary, your thyme, your oregano, get all those planted now. They're gonna take off like crazy. So we've got the Italian large leaf basil here, and along with a lot of other basil varieties I just started yesterday. Now a good strategy for you southern gardeners is start your seeds outdoors in your 6-packs, because if you're like me, your indoor grow lights are full and I just don't have room for them. So on warm spring days, you can just set them outside here on your deck railing or somewhere where they get only morning sun, not afternoon sun, because they tend to dry out too quickly. So get them started, and then on cold nights, bring them inside, put them on your kitchen table, keep them protected on the nights, and then put them back outside for sunshine and warmth during the day. So herbs, got oregano going in here, several different kinds of basil. Borage is a really delicious herb to plant right now. Beautiful purple flowers that the bees absolutely love. I've got some fennel, some summer savory, some chamomile. So those are all good herbs to grow right now in your warm southern garden. But you also want to get your flowers started. So here I've got some sunflowers and zinnias that I'm starting with the same strategy, starting them from seed outdoors, not direct seeding them yet in my garden beds because my garden beds are still full, but that way you save your grow light space and it just makes it easier because then you can skip the step of hardening off because they're already growing outside and won't need to make that transition from indoors to outdoors. So it just makes it that much easier for you. Oh, and also sunflowers. These sunflowers in the warm temperatures we've been having popped up within just a couple of days right here on my deck. Next up for you southern gardeners are berries, strawberries, and all your berry bushes. Get them planted now in the early spring so they can establish and you can have beautiful berries to harvest soon. Now, very important though, when you're growing your strawberries from transplants, get your berries now because the garden centers do run out. So here we've got some gorgeous, gorgeous strawberries in the strawberry crate tower. These are lined with the Smart Pots crate liners. So I just take regular plastic crates and then the crate liners just fit right inside. Then I cut holes so that I can fit strawberries in through the holes of the crates. And you can just grow a ton of strawberries vertically. It really makes the best use of your space here on a deck or a patio. And they're just busting out here. We've been harvesting these and absolutely loving them. Now go back and watch our strawberry video that we posted, I think last week, for some other ideas and tips for growing beautiful strawberries in the spring. Grow them in the crates. You can grow them also in the hanging baskets here. These also have the Smart Pots basket liners in them, and they also grow beautifully in raised beds or in-ground gardens. So many different ways you can grow berries. Now let's head on down below again. We're getting a big hole all over the garden today, and I'll show you the berry bushes that you really want to get planted now too. Southern gardeners, wide open now to get your berry bushes planted too. Here I've got my blackberry bushes, which are just starting to break dormancy. So you do want to get them planted early in the spring. Grab some bare root bushes and save yourself some money from your local independent garden center. And again, ask them for varieties that do well in your area. We've got blackberries in here, but you can also plant blueberries, raspberries, pretty much any kind of berry bush or fruit tree you southern gardeners can plant right now. If you already have an established berry patch, go back and watch our video on how to wake up your blackberries for the season. They definitely need some feeding in order to produce all their berries that you're going to grow this year. Mine are already starting to branch out with some brand new growth, and I just fertilized them about a month ago. So now's the time, the weather's warming up, it's the perfect time to get your berry bushes in as well. Now you southern gardeners will definitely want to keep some shade cloth handy because when temperatures get over 75 or 80, your gorgeous lettuce is going to bolt. So by draping shade cloth over it, you can help extend its harvest just a few more weeks, and that way you get some more crops out of it. But in the meantime, what you want to do is make sure that you're starting seeds or direct seeding your heat tolerant greens, because once your lettuce bolts, you definitely want to have some delicious, beautiful, tasty greens for your salads. So one of my favorites is a perennial, this red vein sorrel. This is one of the most hardiest greens I have in my garden. It always looks good year-round. It's cold tolerant and heat tolerant. So it's just absolutely delicious. And we literally have this in salads or sauteed in scrambled eggs almost every day. Grows very easily from seed, direct seed, or start from seed indoors, but it's a green I always want to have in my garden. There's several different varieties of sorrel that you can grow, and they're all perennials and very, very hardy. Now, a couple of other of my favorite heat tolerant greens are, of course, kale. Now, this kale here is bolting, but I've got some more started from seed indoors. But I believe this is the maybe the lacinato kale, if I remember correctly. But you can still eat these greens. And the great thing about kale is super cold hardy, super heat tolerant, but you can grow it in your garden in southern gardens for years. Just by trimming off the stalk, it will grow brand new leaves. You'll have lots of fresh growth and lots of fresh greens. Another one of my favorites is also down here in this 15-gallon Smart Pot, and that is chard. There's so many gorgeous varieties of chard. This red chard here, I mean, look at these stalks. Are these not just the most gorgeous, beautiful stalks you've ever seen? You can actually use the stalks as celery, either munch on them or put them in stir fries. You can saute the greens. We absolutely love chard with as a tuna wrap or a chicken wrap, and just love to chop it up fresh in our salads too. Now another delicious heat tolerant green I have growing over here in my little shorty, and we're gonna walk across here to the garden. Walk across here to Little Shorty and take a look at some of my other favorite heat-tolerant greens. Here's another variety of chard with pink leaves. I believe it's called peppermint chard. And these are a collard green, which is also very heat-tolerant and cold-tolerant. Then here we have New Zealand spinach going absolutely crazy here, even in the wintertime. So cold-tolerant and heat-tolerant, and these are all in my heat-tolerant green seed collection. New Zealand spinach is kind of a vining green, as you can see. It's actually growing up this trellis, kind of spilling down over the sides of Little Shorty. So it's a really good kind of filler green or a spiller green, either one. And the great thing about it, it is so hardy for you southern gardens. I can't even tell you how many times I have chopped this green down to where you think it looks dead. Little tiny sticks, and then it just takes off and starts to grow. So it has a similar kind of look of spinach, but I want to say it tastes maybe a little bit lemony, maybe a little bit like chard, but you'll have to grow it and let me know what you think of it too. So no matter where you live, the north, the mid-zones, or the south, there's definitely something for you to grow this month. So get out in your gardens, plant something, and enjoy growing your own vegetables this spring. Thanks for watching. See you next time in the garden.